Hello and welcome to Catholic Unscripted. I'm Catherine Bennett.
I'm Mark Lambert.
I'm Gavin Ashenden.
And we hope that we are on Substack. We should be. So Mark's going to do a quick check on that. We know we're on YouTube. So hello and welcome to all of you who have joined us in this, our new regular slot, Tuesdays, 7:30. Why is my head bigger than both of yours? Tuesdays, 7:30.
It contains so much more wisdom and knowledge and competence. That's why.
London time, 7:30. Although I will be beaming in from France this time next week, so it will be 8:30 my time, but let's not confuse things. Hello, Anthony. Welcome. Lindsay, Lou, Mary, good to see you again. And all of you who have joined us. And we will begin by running through a few stories that have come to our attention and then go to your questions and go to your comments and join the conversation. Well, here's a few things, and we'll ask you both for comment. First of all, Cardinal Nichols was interviewed for the Daily Express. It was a very gentle interview, and I think you've both seen that. He spoke in it about the resurgence of young men, spoke about beauty. Well, let's see what you have to say. Then this very strange news, and in fact, perhaps not so strange, given that we were asked on this very programme last week about AI and how to avoid the pitfalls of AI. Have you guys seen this? A video of 15 fake reforms imposed by Pope Leo has gone viral. Have you seen that?
That's what we spoke about last week.
No, we didn't. No, it's happened. It's happened in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, someone else contacted us and said, I've seen this, and is it true? They wanted to know, was it true? But this is now, it's what makes me laugh is it's gone viral, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have seen it. And the thing is, a lot of people are going, woo, we love this. Go on. Yeah, we love the Pope. And it's things like women deacons, confession replaced by communal penance, the decriminalization of sin. It's like, yeah, we don't need to be Catholic anymore. So anyway, it's fake. It's fake.
So Mark's right. We talked about the danger of AI, and we said this was coming. And I raised the slightly ludicrous, but not entirely far-fetched idea that we need to have an internet imprimatur from the Catholic Church. But this is ever so clever because by putting it out in the name of the Pope himself, it is its own imprimatur. I mean, in other words, there's nothing you can do to stop this stuff going out, and it's incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than we ever knew, of course. Terrifying.
Yeah, actually, it really is. Yeah, we need to be cautious. When Gavin starts looking a bit robotic, we'll get back into it.
A bit more robotic. Is the Botox showing already?
A German priest has cut ties with his diocese in protest at its embrace of fiducia supplicans. Another very strange story. I don't know if we want to get into it, but was that in Germany also? A priest
Poland.
The axe man. No.
Axe murdered a homeless man. Very strange. Tate versus Walsh. I've just written about this for the Herald. Do take a look. I'll be posting it on here as well in just a few days. If you don't know, what's his name? Andrew, isn't it? Andrew Tate had a ding-dong with Matt Walsh over marriage. So I've written a little bit about that. And also, Mark has written 2 great articles, which you can find on our website today. So perhaps you can tell us about those: When Mercy Ignores Justice and Why Churches Collapse When They Stop Preaching Truth. So quite a few things to go through. Keep your questions and your comments coming. But let's start with that interview with Cardinal Nichols. What did you both make of that? Let's start, Gavin, with you.
Like the curate, good in parts. First of all, it was so nice to see him in the public square. We've been begging, asking, suggesting, cajoling for the hierarchy to speak clearly in the public square. So there he was. And to begin with, I thought he's doing it was wonderful he's there. So much to be grateful for. He said lots of very good things. Just somehow running underneath it was this, I don't know, I can't explain, spirit of Vatican II, spirit of wokery. It was just tinged with a degree of inclusive relativism. So he said so many good things, so much to be grateful for. I was listening to Anthony and Avoiding Babylon people,
Yeah.
and they were saying what we need from Pope Leo is we need him to come back and excommunicate and anathematize a few people. That's good old Catholicism like we knew it. And I think there should have been just a touch of that. Nichols was saying, I mean, it was quite clearly a man right at the end of his career, and I thought there were some strong things that ought to have been said that weren't said. But how lovely to have him there. He did, as you say things about beauty and truth and loveliness attracting people. I'd liked him to have gone a lot further and a lot stronger.
Yeah, it's kind of, we couldn't expect anything but he's speaking, and he spoke strongly on euthanasia and abortion, and then got a little more wishy-washy. Mark, what did you think of it?
Yeah, well, I think Gavin's absolutely right. But overall, I'm just happy to see any of them ever say anything. Well, not all of them, as you'll note from my article today. I wish Bishop McAleenan or whatever his name is would just put a sock in it or say something authentic. That would be really useful. But yeah, I was really, really pleased that Cardinal Nichols spoke out. He was looking really old and really tired, but he is really old and probably really tired.
He did talk about his retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
More than he talked about God. Yes,
yeah,
right.
And that's exactly it. Like exactly as Gavin said, I thought, what he said about euthanasia was brilliant. He had a really good conversation about that and made some excellent points. And he's all right. He's been saying it a little bit over the last few months, but this should all be in the public forum. I don't understand why it's so little, so late. I mean, it's the first thing I've seen. Like there might have been a couple of other videos by the Catholic bishops of England and Wales, but that's the first sort of public appearance I've seen him make on it. And do
we know what audience he got? What kind of spread reach it's at? Any idea?
Oh no, I haven't checked.
Not that many that I saw. It was a very.
Sorry, Mark, I didn't interrupt you. Beg your pardon.
No, that's okay. Let's just. I've got it. I should have it on my history.
Find him later.
It's on 16,000.
Oh gosh, that's fewer than us.
Yeah,
that's not bad though.
Well, and the irony is,
very good.
We invited him to come on with us, and he refused. He said it wasn't the sort of platform that he wanted to. What's wrong with these people?
And then he went on the Daily Express. I feel insulted.
Find out what they actually think or teach.
Daily Express is a much
thing.
It's a much more reputable Catholic platform than the outrageous Catholic Unscripted. You can see why a man of taste would prefer to go on the Daily Express. When did they give up page 3 girls? Not that long ago, was it? Anyway, meanwhile.
Yeah. So anyway, and I think you got it exactly right, both of you, about the relativism that came creeping in there. When he said something like, "Oh, I think people who just believe in the absolute truth, that's always a problem," or something. I was like, "What?" So there were a couple of moments like that when I thought, what are you talking about? You will know the truth.
Do we know if the interview? Do we know? Sorry, Mark. People will complain about us talking over each other. This is harder than it looks, everyone. Anthony, confirm that in the comments, please. Do we know whether the interviewer was Catholic? I don't know anything about the interviewer, but didn't seem to push much.
No, I don't. If he was, he didn't show it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've no idea.
Gavin mentioned Anthony, our friend Anthony Abate, and his friend Rob, and our friend too, who were talking with Matt. We're all friends who were talking with Matt Gaspers, and it was such an enjoyable conversation, really enjoyable and valuable conversation. So just a little plug for that if you haven't yet seen that conversation with Avoiding Babylon and Matt Gaspers. Anyway, so we're agreed on Cardinal Nichols.
This is what we were talking about last week, which is, I'm sure what you're saying is the same. He's probably the same guy who's, put out 15 reforms or whatever now. But this was something that a priest sent me, and we were discussing last week because someone put in our chat last week, what do you think about these 7 Catholic traditions that Pope Leo has banned? And it's just rubbish. It's just like he's speaking in Italian and they put an AI voice over the top of it, so it's just complete nonsense. But you've got to be a bit more discerning with these things, haven't you? So.
Don't you think it also speaks a little bit to people believing what they want to hear? You know, they're waiting to hear something and then they're very quick and happy to believe it because it confirms what they want.
We are very much in this is the way that it's going to be now, I'm afraid, until we get some action. And I've seen it for all across the church. You know, everyone is in anticipation for what Pope Leo is going to do. And people have got expectations about what that's going to be. And I think a lot of those expectations are going to be disappointed. And we've seen that really with the way that he's dealt with Bishop Martin. I think that's what we're going to see more of. And I think that if you look at the way that he spoke to Bishop Martin in Charlotte, where he said, you know, look, it makes sense for you to be with your people for a little while before you make changes that are going to cause problems. I would imagine he'll be having a similar conversation with Archbishop Weisenberger over the next few days.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much to be said on that. I mean, one of the things we're trying to decide is whether or not Martin and Weisenberger are the kind of last reflex of a serpentine spirit that is trying to cause damage before they're held to account by a more Catholic Pope. That would be lovely if it's true. Or are they, because they're the last appointments of Pope Francis, or are they super confident because they know things we don't know about Pope Leo? Because again, there've been things being said in the public that he was Francis's choice and that Francis's right-hand man, and none of that's true, but it's being said. And that takes us to the fact that this video that's gone out is it's much more serious than we're even recognizing here. What it means is that at any point there can be put out the face of somebody with a voice attached saying things that are nothing to do with them whatsoever, and a lot of people will take it at face value, and it will take a while before people say, no, this isn't the right thing, this isn't true at all. How are any of us, particularly as the quality of AI fake goes up, how are any of us to know whether this is real or not? Everything that comes across our desk is going to have to say, wait a minute, this is going to take a few hours, maybe a day or two, before we know whether this is right. I mean, let's say Pope Leo comes back from Castel Gandolfo saying Tradizione Custones is gone. How will we know? How long will it take to find out whether that's really him or not, or some kind of spoil? We're in really deep trouble with fake AI stuff, and you know, people could put stuff from the three of us out, and it would. How long would it take to call it back and for us to say that's not us at all? This business that I was trying to raise last time of casually and not very coherently about the need for a kind of Catholic imprimatur, in the same way that books get a stamp from a bishop saying these people are under my care and this is authentic Catholicism. We're going to need something similar for the internet in order that we can find a way of dealing with stuff that comes and we don't have to deal with it at first sight.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great comment here. It's something we've been saying a lot. Thank you, the Catholic Renaissance. Keep your eyes on Christ. Don't get distracted by left or right. Absolutely. Around the time of the American election, when it seemed to divide Catholics, we were saying the same thing, which is don't be fooled into thinking that all the answers lie with Trump just because you didn't like some of the stuff that was going on with Biden. So yeah, very good. Thank you. Always check the Vatican press office is the advice from Aidan. Good point. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
Until they get taken over by robots as well.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. You know, they're not great either. And there's been a lot of talk about this influencers thing that's been going on. You know, that people have been invited there, and the way that they've been invited is by DM on Instagram. That like the post office has been doing some really weird stuff that no one can work out. And I mean, under Pope Francis, there was one stage I remember really clearly where it seemed like some 15-year-old intern got hold of the Twitter account and was just posting. Remember that? Was posting all this nonsense and people were just excoriating him. So you know, I don't know that is the right thing to do. You know, I don't think you can always trust. Please God, under Pope Leo, that's one thing you'll get to grips with is the press office. But what I would say is, you know, some of us
with Mark Lambert.
Well, some of us,
but
po di Italiano.
Non parlo
You can't
italiano.
fake Mark
Parlo
Lambert.
pochissimo italiano. Dove va poretto per Ponte Duomo, per favore. But Aidan's right. I mean, if it's not on the Vatican press office, then you know, if it purports to be a formal post from the Pope and it's not on the Vatican press office, then he's right. I mean, we could say, okay, that's one way of testing it. But what about other stuff? I mean, it's going to be very difficult to be able to authenticate things when this fakery gets a wider hold.
Do you remember we were in the US a few months ago and we met a Catholic man who had invented some kind of, I must say, after a great number of hours of being explained this, I'm still not 100% the wiser, but it was something to do with AI, and it was a Catholic AI. So maybe we'll give him a ring and see what he has to contribute to this discussion. But I think there are efforts by Catholics to jump in and try and. My advice to him was switch it all off and don't bother, which probably wasn't welcome.
Well, that was what was funny.
It was his
so
life's
excited
work.
about. He was so excited about it, and you and I were sitting in the car going. Oh. Yeah.
Anyway,
that's a good thing.
It's 10 to 8. Keep your or begin your questions. Ask your questions. Otherwise, we will move on, discuss other news that's been going on this week. But do jump in the comments and ask your questions or make your contributions. We'll bring those up on the screen. One wonders, I feel like we have discussed this, but we can do that again. One wonders why Pope Leo didn't intervene in Detroit if he did indeed intervene. Oh, Jeanette, hi, it's Jeanette. We went out for lovely dinner. Hello, Jeanette, and you're with your family, so great to see you here. Why didn't you?
Oh, the Jeanette.
It's the Jeanette, yeah. Why didn't you intervene?
I think we know the answer to that. It's because he's on holiday, and so I mean, first of all, his intervention in Charlotte came a bit late. I mean, it all happened, and then quite clearly somebody said to somebody else, and the message got through, and so a restraining message that meant, as you rightly pointed out, that the Diocese of Charlotte said, if the circumstances change, we'll change too. But I think once Weisenberger had sacked people in the seminary, there's not the Pope there's nothing he can actually do. And then if he can't do anything, how would he intervene? He's on holiday, or he's in his summer retreat, working his way through the Curia, we think, who to keep and who not to keep, plus his future strategy, what to do about Francis's legacy. I'm not sure what he could do apart from say, not in my name, but it's Weisenberger's diocese. And again, if this is a rogue radical exercising his muscles before a change of regime, what can the Pope do apart from make himself look impotent? Because he can't say don't do it. There is a degree of independence that the Archbishop has. So maybe the way he'll deal with it is by, if as we hope, he's going to be a Catholic Pope, then by changing the climate and making it more Catholic, that would be a way of distancing himself from this horrible, vengeful, radical action that poor, what's his name, Ralph Martin, and the other two have experienced. Sorry, Alzheimer's names, they take 30 seconds to filter through the system. I'm nearly there.
Well, Jeanette says hi with her husband, Joe. Thank you for that question, Jeanette. Mark?
Well, so I think we have to think back to what happened, Jeanette, before Bishop Martin had the brakes put on. Can you remember what happened before? Anyone remember? What happened before was that Tucho got called into the office. Now, what happened this morning? Tucho was called into the office. So
how do you know that?
No, Roche was called into. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, tell us about that, Mark.
That was the 6th time that Tucho's been called into the office. And if you think about who is supposed to, like, these guys have been sacked at extra canonical process. So they have got calls to appeal to the court, to the Vatican court. And Dr. Ed Peters, who's the canonist, this is a guy who's been on dicasteries in Rome, who the Curia used to consult, on matters of canon law, and they've just sacked him unceremoniously. Weisenberger's that is not a clever move right? So it's going to be like there could be some serious repercussions from this, and I don't think Ed Peters is going to go down without a fight. So it will be very interesting to see if calling, who is in charge of enforcing the doctrine of the faith. That is Tucho, and he has been in the office this morning. So I would say watch this space. Whether it's blunderingly made public the way that Martin's was, where he made an announcement and then it was reversed, and he sort of there was an extra addendum in his note that was, and if the Vatican happened to change anything by October, then of course we abide by that, which really sounded like he'd been slapped on the wrists. Then, we could, I don't know whether we'll get that level of detail, but, there could just be a settlement made or something like that. But certainly I think what Weisenberger done, and the most disgusting thing, and I am furious about this particular thing, because he hasn't just had a quiet word with them and said, look, we're not quite in agreement over this, that and the other. Would you mind, you're 80, would you mind stepping down? No, he's done it in a very public way to very prominent scholars, and in a way which basically is detraction. It's, a form of detraction. So spiritually, it's absolutely appalling from a pastoral perspective, from a Christian perspective, from every perspective. Forget about just law, just about a just way to treat your employees, that he's intervened in this way and got rid of these guys. I think it's appalling. So I'm not expecting Pope Leo to come out on the loggia and say, oh, right, they're reinstated, or let's not be, but there are wheels in motions and ways of dealing with things. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Weisenberger got a phone call and a slap on the wrist as a result of this.
Yeah, perhaps a follow-up question. We have addressed this before, but perhaps not explicitly as a question we have from Lindsay. Do bishops have free rein to determine their own decisions? How much power does the Pope have? Mark?
Well, he is the supreme legislator in the church. So you could say this is really the problem. This is what we had with Francis. So, yeah, I mean, the Pope can do whatever he likes. But in a proper hierarchical communion, that's not outside what the church teaches. It's not outside the magisterium. The problem is when you get people like Weisenberger doing things that are unjust. And other than that, there shouldn't really be a problem. If we're all acting in accordance with the magisterium and doctrine, then there's not a problem. And these guys, they had to take an oath when they joined that university, they joined that seminary, that they would uphold the faith, the doctrine of the faith, and that they wouldn't compromise on that. And this is something that our friend, Dr. Janet Smith, worked at the same seminary. So we've got, someone who knows them and who is a first-hand sort of friend of them. And so these aren't people who are dissenters. God knows there's been enough dissenters appointed to these positions. So, all right, the Pope is the supreme legislator, but he shouldn't act, in a way that's contrary to justice. So, and that should be the measure of it.
Which is why I always say, actually, the question's better framed to talk about authority rather than power, because it's not about who has the most power and how can I implement this power. And that isn't the question. It's about rightful authority. And then it becomes a question is, where is the right authority? And it's not, then it's about submitting to something higher than and outside of the man or the person. So, but these questions around papal infallibility and an understanding of the way Catholics see the papal office, I think is probably the biggest sticking point when it comes to the wars or the divisions within the church. I think a lot of it is around a misunderstanding of papal infallibility. So the question is really about authority. Gavin?
Well, so can we make a distinction between authority and management? Because I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the paradox is that so a pope could not possibly be expected and should not interfere with the management of the diocese, of different dioceses. It's not. I mean, I'm not sure he has. I have no idea if he has the power to do it. I suspect he doesn't have the power to do it. It's the bishop's diocese. But the paradox is that Pope Francis micromanaged very badly and was constantly interfering. And the way in which he interfered, for example, was to set, for example, in that French diocese where he didn't like the bishop, he set a commission in to go through everything. And then having done that, a bit like Bishop Tyler, the Bishop of Tyler, having put the commission in, they then dealt with the bishop. But he doesn't have the power, I don't think, to override episcopal decisions in the diocese. What he does have, as Katherine was quite rightly saying, is dogmatic authority. But what we're complaining about is mismanagement. And the problem with management is it really belongs properly within a diocesan bishop or archbishop's province of responsibility. So we need, and as Katherine quite rightly said, the idea that the Pope is infallible is everything to do with dogma and nothing to do with day-to-day management.
And I think that hyper-papalism became a much more prominent thing under JP2. And I think that's then to be followed up relatively soon after by Francis, created a problem, I think. Rosie's asking about the Welsh market town she lives in. The library's being handed over to Islam. What are we to do about the erosion of our Christian culture? Well, the first thing I want to say is be Christian. Not to you, Rosie, of course, I'm sure you are, and you've joined us here this evening. But it does frustrate me that we live in a society that says, oh, I'm so annoyed that our culture is slipping and we've got so many immigrants and we've got Muslims. And I'm not saying there isn't a concern there, but to say that and not participate in the faith of that gave you the thing that you now miss is hugely frustrating. So I think, what do you think is going to happen? You don't go to churches; they're going to get turned into mosques. You don't participate in the faith of your fathers. Then you're going to see it go. I wish it wouldn't happen. I don't want it to happen, but it will happen. So I think the first thing is live our faith and then evangelize. Evangelization is the key. In answer to that, Gav?
Well, I'd like to add to it. I mean, what you say is perfectly right, but what Rosie, I think, is drawing attention to is this collaboration between the left and Islam. So my guess is if someone's handing over a library building, it's a council. It'll be a political left-wing council. There aren't many right-wing ones in Wales. But it's essentially this collaboration of handing over our culture to Islam. And I mean, one of the problems we have at the moment, and I was talking about it in my video about will King Charles lose his head, is the fact that we're moving closer towards civil disorder or civil war. Professor David Metz has warned us we're 3/4 of the way there. But part of Islam is ambitious enough for itself without it being helped by the left treating them as if they are a special case. What can we do? Well, I mean, the apocalyptic answer is there will be a division between Islamic areas and Islamic responsibilities and Islamic Sharia law and Islamic government and non-Islamic areas. And the question is going to be, where will that division lie? We will become like Lebanon. There will be Islamic areas and non-Islamic areas. I'm afraid, in my sober apocalyptic view, it's going to get an awful lot worse before. Well, I'm not sure it'll ever get better, but it's going to get a lot worse.
But the question, Gavin, is what to do. I mean, we know your apocalyptic take on the matter, and of course, everything's in God's hands, and we don't know, though we can follow what's happening, see the pattern, and say, what does justice demand if we behave like this? But what to do is the question from Rosie. Is okay. This future is unfolding before us, isn't it awful? Now what? What's your answer? What's the answer?
Some people will be taking to the barricades and the streets. You have to decide whether that's what you should do or not. But beyond that,
I wasn't expecting that.
Beyond that, there isn't anything you can do. You can't do anything apart. Well, we clearly we're going to continue to that's what we're doing now. We can evangelize and try and make our country as Christian as possible, and that's what we're doing. So, in one sense, at the at a spiritual level, we're doing it, and we're encouraging everybody else to do it. The problem with Islam is that it's a mixture of spiritual, religious, and politics. So we can do things in religious or spiritual terms, but Islam is working politically. What can we do politically about Islam? That's really problematic because there's no political side to Christianity in the same way. So that's why it's so powerful, and that's why it's such a threat, and that's why if you launch it in Europe, it's going to have such consequences. And why, in the end, the only political response is going to be civil disorder, because that's the only thing that will that will limit it. Otherwise, it will take over the whole of Europe.
A few more questions coming in. We'll get to as many as we can. Do you exclusively go to the TLM? I find a mix of spiritually uplifting, although my local cathedral has a beautiful Novus Ordo. Mark?
Oh, quick, unmute myself. Yeah, no, I go, my parish is Novus Ordo, done very reverently. We do have the occasional traditional Latin Mass. We have a regular one once a month, and if there's one in London or something like that, I might pop up and see that. So I think my own position is that I wish that we did all have the traditional Latin Mass, but we haven't. And the liturgy is a means to get closer to God. It's a tool that we use to direct ourselves to Jesus. So that's the most important thing, is that your heart is directed to Jesus.
I do go to the TLM, a wonderful parish in South London, and when I'm away, I find the TLM. So that's not to say I wouldn't go elsewhere, and I certainly have done. But at the moment, I would seek out the TLM and make the journey where possible. I'm off to France next week, so I've already looked up my route, to much complaining that we realise it's going to be a 2-hour journey, but we're making it. So yes, I do go exclusively to the TLM, and it's actually pre-55 most of the time. It's really, really beautiful. And there's 2 masses on a weekend where I go. So I'm very fortunate because I can walk there in an hour, and it's a 20-minute drive. Gavin?
I'm compromised. I'm a singer. As people probably know, I go to Shrewsbury Cathedral, where I sing in the choir. My friends and I rely on each other. It's a commitment to make the liturgy as beautiful as possible. I'm very pleased to say that about 10 minutes away at St. Winifred's, there's a TLM. It's a wonderful community, and I go there occasionally and have the opportunity of doing that, particularly on feast days. But my weekly commitment is to the really wonderful. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the people there. The dean, the Bishop Mark Davis, and the members of the choir. I've never sung in a group of devoted, pious, worshipping singers like this before in my life. And so it's not so much prioritizing Novus Ordo, it's prioritizing this act of liturgy and faithfulness in this place in the diocese. But I'm very pleased to say there's Latin Mass just around the corner for special feast days.
We have had a couple of questions coming in, because a number of people watching were very thankful for your King Charles video. So I've seen King Charles come up a couple of times. There's one here. Please, could you comment on where you think King Charles' relationship to Islam is headed? Is this all by design, as he is high up in the WEF? From the Raw Food Gardener. Thank you. I guess that's for you, Gav.
Yes. Well, let's take the design out of it. It doesn't need to be by design. I mean, this is what happened to him as he brought up. He might have been restrained by his dad. I wouldn't be at all surprised. But it was quite clear from early on that he was enamored with Islam. And there's nobody in a position to stop it. Quite the opposite, in fact. The Muslim influences behind the scene are very powerful. It's a bit like the Home Office. There's an enormous Islamic presence in the Home Office, which has been used to leverage the way in which immigration issues have taken place. So the fact is, he's very fond of it. As I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm suggesting that it undermines his legitimacy as the Crown. If the Crown is not going to be Christian and it's not going to defend ordinary Englishmen, then where is its legitimacy? And then, that also affects the Church of England. Essentially, there's a great deal of pressure being placed on our unwritten constitution, and I think it's going to unravel under the pressure of civil unrest. I can't see any other route. I mean, at what point will the English say no to having? Okay, this is dismissed as a right-wing meme, but it's still descriptive. what point are the English going to resist to having their women and their children threatened in public by people who shouldn't be there and are illegal? I wrote this slightly tongue-in-cheek article about the descendants of Boadicea, because it was Boadicea who rose up against the colonial invaders, the Romans, and it's the women in Essex who are out there saying, we're not having this anymore. Where are the men? So, but the police have sold out completely. I think the army will have sold out completely. The question is, the only way this can be changed is when the people of this country rise up with sufficient civil disorder to challenge, dislodge, threaten, or change the government.
He's really calling on civil disorder, isn't he, tonight, Mark?
Well, yeah. I'm not calling for it. I'm not calling for it. I'm saying that only that will change things. Otherwise, things will continue proportionately in the way they are at the moment. Well, good. Explain that. Give another view, Katherine.
Is it illegal in England to talk about Muslims? To talk to Muslims about Jesus? Funnily enough, my daughter was in London the other day and took a photograph of a stall. You get this stands, and it had a big sign saying, "If you love Jesus," and you go over and it says, "Become a Muslim." So the Muslims are now tapping into Jesus to sell Islam. I don't disagree with you, Gavin. I think I've just written an article about Andrew Tate and Matt Walsh, and what I drew on is how Andrew Tate is sort of incarnating Machiavelli. And the point I made in that is, for Andrew Tate, everything is about winning. He describes life as a game of chess, and it's about winning, and it's about power. And he says, because other people in the world are terrible, then you can be terrible too. Putting this in my own words, because other people are terrible and dishonest, then you have to be to win. And I was saying that's the kind of Machiavellian idea. And actually, it's not Christian. I know Tate describes himself as a Muslim, so that's their business to clean up. But you need to say, Christian idea. It's not the Christian idea. Yes, I mean, we can talk about the Crusades, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for defending the faith. But the best defense is to live a Christian life, to participate in our faith, which I've already said. And I would want to call on that before I start talking about civil disobedience or uprisings. I'm not saying that time won't come. It seems like it might. You've talked about it often. So that's what I was wanting to add.
You might want to say that there is a doctrine in Islam which gives you permission to lie and deceive people if it supports the Muslim faith. It's called taqiyya. And so when you talk about Tate, saying that that's you're quite right, it is Machiavellian, but it's also in Islamic precept. It is authenticated within Islam to lie to non-Muslims in order to promote the cause of Islam. It becomes a holy, right and just and proper thing in Islamic theology. Yeah,
and what I was drawing attention to is actually it's the Christian response is radical, and it is, because it was in the context of marriage. It is the idea of sacrifice. And while it looks like the man beaten, tortured, nailed to a cross, lost and was a big loser and the devil won, we know otherwise. And so how things appear with worldly horizontal eyes is not how they are with the lens of faith. So you can all find that in my article. Go and read it. Okay, what are we missing out on here? Warrington does TLM regularly. Yes, great community up in Warrington. Gavin is amazing. Rosie loves you, Gavin. Gavin is amazing. There we are.
This is probably, you sure this is not one of my sock puppets?
Mark, sorry, we've been chatting and I've taken my eyes off the feed. Is there any questions we want to pull up in the last 15 minutes of our chat?
There's that one from Miriam. I don't know if you saw that one. And I'd say no. Well, we're kind of a bit busy at the moment, Miriam, with like what we're doing. But we're quite happy to address any questions or any issues that you've got, and we would consider. I'm sure all of us would consider. If you had specific questions or ideas, then we'd be more than happy to but it's difficult to know what what does a returning Catholic need to know. So
well, we can partly do it here, but also Katherine and I are doing a series on the catechism. So a returning Catholic probably needs to work their way through the catechism, and Katherine and I are trying to keep it's my guarantee of longevity for as long as Katherine and I,
until one of us dies.
It's 600 pages and it's taking a while. So at the moment, I'm not likely to
Gavin
finish
keeps
on
ringing me
98.
and said, let's put it off a little bit longer. We're going through the catechism, and that links with another question somebody asked about the videos. They should all be on Substack as well. If they're not yet, do be patient, and they soon will be. But we're only up to episode 9 or 10 we've just done. And as Gavin said, there should be about 6,000 or so. So it's early days. Stick with us. And the catechism is a jumping off point, but then we go, at length. Gavin explores things from his perspective as a convert, and me as a cradle. Okay, we didn't really touch too much on the German priest. I don't know if you want to say something about that, Mark, before we go to another question. The German priest who he's cut ties with his diocese.
I didn't even read that one, so no, not really.
Someone did ask about the German bishops. I don't know if there's any comment you want to make on the situation in Germany, or just.
Oh, I thought we sort of did that last week, didn't we? I think that they're cutting themselves off from the truth, and they're, what can you do? They're going to be schismatic. So good, the sooner the better. Burn it all down. That's, guys. If you watch me regularly, I think that the bad stuff has got to burn itself out, and as we always have, the church has always done it. It follows Jesus, our master, into the tomb and is reborn again. So from the ashes, greatness will rise. But it's these structures, these human structures, build themselves up. It's the enemy at work, and what can you do? They've got to just destroy themselves because they're sterile, and that's what they do. And you see it time and time again. That was my article that I wrote about the Canadian Anglican Church of Canada, or whatever they're called. They've just appointed a new primate who's basically saying, let's do the thing that's destroying us harder. That will sort it out. You just think, is he not paying any attention to the effect it's having? I mean, look at the stats. It's madness. But there you go. That's what they want. They want what the enemy wants. So, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And Mark's mentioned articles a few times. So have I. If you're not familiar with our new website, do visit CatholicUnscripted.com. Pick up a monthly or a discounted annual subscription, and you get everything. Access all areas, every article written, all the written comments, exclusive videos and posts. It's all there. So it would really support us to continue. So thank you very much to all of you who have. Do you think see that one from Mary? I just thought we're sort of running past it. And I would suggest, Mary, your diocese will have an annual pilgrimage. So you can find out from your diocese. Your parish priest should know, because most of the parishes will organise a coinciding trip to Lourdes. But pretty much every diocese in the UK goes to Lourdes at about this time of year. So, there should definitely be something there.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, lots of people saying they love singing after Gavin saying he does sing. The TLM I go to is the high mass. It is the sung mass, so that's beautiful. I did have a question. I don't know where it's gone now. I brought it up before Mark was discussing Lourdes. So if you remember, either of you.
Refugees, wasn't it?
Oh, I missed it. That was a different one. There's this one.
It was that. What was it?
Going so quickly. Look, Jeanette says, would you guys consider leading a pilgrimage? I think that's something that's definitely on the agenda. But we've done several really good retreats that we've really enjoyed doing, which is a bit of a pilgrimage, to Ireland or to Stonyhurst. We've been on a number of occasions, and we really enjoy those places. And there are other venues that we've been considering. So, watch this space and see what happens next.
Yeah, and that links with a question we had about half an hour ago, asking will we come to California? And I think the answer to all those requests is we're not against it in principle, but we'd need to be invited, and there'd need to be we'd need to be invited and funded to go. The spirit is willing, we'll say, and we're very happy to go if
the pocket
if
is
people
weak.
want to. Yeah, I'm afraid that's simply the case, especially because we're talking about 3 of us. But we have been to a few different conferences and events in the US, most recently in Tennessee, and before that Chicago, Pittsburgh, and we're in Pittsburgh again in September, October. So we would, so just keep in touch, and
Get the
if
parish
it's
to
possible,
invite us.
yeah, if you can get the parish to invite us, if a program can be put together, then we're certainly very happy to do that, and would enjoy that very much. So until then, look out for retreats in the UK. Right. By that German priest, Cronenberg, good man. I presume, Daryl, you're talking about the priest who cut ties with his diocese in protest at fiducia supplicans. Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes to go. What have we got, Mark?
I don't know. What have we got?
I would say what have we got, Gavin, but you're like me and you have to keep switching your glasses on to see.
Yeah, I don't know. People recommending travel agents, Tagny Tours. That's a good one for going to Lourdes.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to do that, actually. I'd love to do a trip to Lourdes.
Yeah, I would.
Long, that would be really good.
Yeah, we should definitely do a Catholic unscripted pilgrimage to Lourdes. And
Curtis has asked, what's our opinion of the new Pope? Well, Curtis, you can't be keeping up with Catholic unscripted very much. You don't talk about much else like the Pope. But we're all, I think that I would hate to be a cynic about it. I want to be happy and joyful. And there are really, really good signs in spite of the 12 years of abuse we suffered under Pope Francis. And I really do feel that, he was a one-off and just a complete nightmare for the church. And he's left lots of problems. And as Gavin has said, the problems that we've got with Bishop Martin and Bishop Weisenberger, these are the kinds of problems that Pope Francis generated, and that now the next man has got to try and sort out. And it's, in the tradition of the church, it's not an easy thing to do, because the way that the church works is not to go in and, sack people and be all leery. It's, he's made his opinion clear from the beginning, Leo, that he wants to work in unity and that he wants to bring the church together. So he's got to find a way of doing that. And I think that's a really wise way of governing, because, he knows how to govern. He's been head of the Augustinian order, which is like a worldwide diocese, so it's not a little job, it's a big job. And really, we all believe in the same thing. All these bishops, we all want the same thing. And so you've got to really expect that we're all playing on the same side and find a way to bring everyone together and to stop the fighting and division that Pope Francis caused. So I think things will get better, but at the moment we're all sort of hanging on for some big thing, an encyclical, or Fernandez or Roche to get the sack or something like that, or so perhaps Rupnik to be brought to justice. That would be a great thing, wouldn't it? That we'd all applaud as well. So
yeah,
something like that would be a really good thing. I did notice that the Vatican Bank has noted that there's been a lot of new donations. So a lot of people are behind Leo already and supporting his work. Let's hope we see some action soon.
Yeah, very, very good. What's your view on the Apostolic Constitution? Let's bring this up. What's your view on the Apostolic Constitution, Exul Familia, written by Pius XII? You might have to get the rest of that. People who support migration used to justify an opinion that people are free to live in wherever country. Again, this is something we've addressed in the past. We quite often discuss this. Perhaps at 8:23, it might be a bit difficult to fully address it. But maybe I would say, Mark, would you say to keep an eye on our website? We do address immigration and the church's teaching on immigration. We talked about it quite a bit after cool. You talk about dementia, Gavin. What's the who's the vice president in the US?
Vance.
Vance. After Vance did his Order of Love and those comments. But as I said, we've got 5 minutes. So do you want to say anything?
Well,
I've
just literally posted an article about it on the website, so I suggest you go and read that, where I'm talking about exactly what you're talking about there, my friend who just wrote that message, which is that the bishops tend to use a very one-sided argument when they talk about migration, and it's not the Catholic truth. It's also, it's insulting to those of us who are parents who want to look after our children. That doesn't make us racist and bigots if we're concerned. And there's no evangelical dimension to it. There's no dimension of evangelism to the way that they talk about it. These people are coming here. Thanks, Lindsay. These people are coming here from broken societies, and they're coming here because they want to enjoy things like, the rule of law and the wonderful things that we've got in this country. They need to be evangelized to say, look, it's our Christian heritage. These things were built by our faith in Christ. That's why we've got this wonderful society. But you never hear that dimension to it, It's all welcome the stranger. All right, we all agree that's a Catholic principle. But you don't, let a snake into your house to bite your children, do you, either, So there's a tension there, and that is in Catholic teaching. The Catechism says that you've got a grave duty to defend, as a father, your family. So it really winds me up that they miss that dimension when they talk about these things.
Yeah. Well, we've also only just discovered that the Taliban were invited in by the government as part of the Afghan resettlement program that was completely silent from the people. There are a number of issues to immigration, and one is, and I'm sorry to sound slightly paranoid, but nonetheless it's true. One is the intention to turn the bits of Europe Islamic, because the people who are coming here are Muslims. And it's not just that the Muslims are finding economic sanctuary here. You have to ask that if the majority of people coming across in the boats and elsewhere are Islamic men between 20 and 40, what is the stimulus behind that? And it's simply not accidental. So this is not just about economic migration. There's clearly a strongly religious element to it as well, and it's being kept out of the public discourse, so we can't talk about it, but it's there, so we should recognize it.
How might you destroy Christendom? Well, you start by destroying the family, which are the building blocks of any society. Done, check. And then you destroy the idea of national identity. You destroy nations. Remember, this command to go out, the Great Commission, to evangelize the nations. Well, if there aren't any nations, what are you evangelizing? This blurring of boundaries, and everyone's welcome and nothing means anything and there is no identity. As Mark said, and as Gavin said, this is not Catholic. To say simply, without any nuance, invite everyone in, we've all got to be nice to each other, full stop, is a problem. And yet that is all we hear.
I'd like to say, because I've been lured into making political statements, perfectly properly, these are sensible questions and they require answers, and I've tried to give honest answers. But what we're doing, but we see the solution, but just as Katherine has said, as renewing Christendom, particularly renewing Catholicism. Catholicism gave us Christendom, and that's one of the things that we're doing on Catholic Unscripted. Our response is to renew the church, to proclaim the gospel, support Catholicism, and to try and renew our Christian culture from within, so that these people who are coming become Christians and become good Catholics. They may say, if you're interested in Jesus, become a Muslim. And we need to say, if you're interested in Jesus, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, family life, and all the beautiful things that Christendom gives, and become a Catholic. That's what Catholic Unscripted is doing, and we're unashamed. And I'd rather not answer the political questions politically. I'd rather answer them in terms of our spiritual and our religious responsibilities.
Yeah, Chris H, absolutely. We did laugh about this a couple of months back when we were discussing the issue again, and saying, isn't it funny that people are at that time you remember that video going around, guys? People on the street saying, "Welcome the refugee," and then someone went round and said, "Have you got any space in your house?" And they went,
Yes, that's right. How many can you have in your back room?
Yeah, I'm a bit busy this weekend, or actually I've just had the back room decorated, and so yeah, it's a lot of virtue signalling without the difficult conversations that are needed, that are required. And actually, there's integrity and honesty to saying, no, it's not that simple. We can't just welcome everyone. It's easy to say it, but it's not possible. Mark.
One of the things that I said in that article was that where do they put these hotels where they house migrants? They put them in working class areas. They don't have them in Oxford or,
no,
like they don't put them where the politicians and that class of people live. They put them where we're going, it's more likely to cause tension to the extent where you have to watch it and say, are they trying to cause civil unrest? Is this what they want so they can clamp down on the fathers and the mothers who are concerned about their children? I mean, this is a guy from Ethiopia in Epping who got off the boat 3 weeks ago and is, accused of attacking and raping a local lass. The facts are indisputable that this is not bringing about social cohesion. It's doing quite the opposite. So there are real questions to answer there. And it undermines the bishop's authority when they don't speak sense. When they try and patronize us and tell us that we're stupid and we're bigoted because we've got concerns about the social cohesion we see being eroded around our own neighborhoods. It's not right that they should do that.
And when we are the people affected, there was a term when I was growing up, champagne socialism, and it was that idea that you sit swilling your champagne in your wealthy areas and your gated communities, reading the Guardian, untouched by the problems that you pontificate over. And actually the people who are affected by it, the people whose children are feeling under threat, whose families are under threat, and say it, are just dismissed as racist. Well, it's just a way of shutting people up. And yes, I think that begs the question, why is it happening? To what extent is it intentional? But we'll have to leave it there for today because we've got to 8:30. But as we began by saying, we are with you every Tuesday now, 7:30 to 8:30 London time, please God. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Do keep them coming. And it might be a good idea, somebody suggested you can email in. So there's a week between live broadcasts. You can email info@catholicunscripted.com if you have any questions in advance you'd like us to ponder, consider, and then discuss next time. Otherwise, continue as you've been doing, asking your questions and making your comments in the chat. I'll be joining Gavin and Mark from France next week. And then I think maybe in a few weeks, Mark, we'll be together in France, joining Gavin as he's in who knows where.
England.
But we'll do our best. Well, I don't know, because you're also going to France at some point. But will we coincide? But for now, thanks for watching. And do visit catholicunscripted.com.
Please do like and share the video as well, because that really helps us.
Yeah.
And please subscribe to our Substack if you haven't done yet, because that also really helps us. And that's where you get these really, but actually, I think I'm so proud of my colleagues. Astonishingly competent articles are coming out there. The standard is really wonderful, but you need to subscribe mainly to be able to get them.
Yeah, thank you. Some of the questions you've been asking can be answered in more depth in the written word. So that's another reason to go and take a look. All right. God bless all. Thanks for watching. See you next week.